So my thought is I want to ask you how you do a couple things at your shop. One of the hot topics out there right now that I always kind of get into is flat rate, number one. And the other thing is how you charge for diag. That's
Yeah.
another thing where a lot of these guys are like, well, you can't charge for diag. I'm like, yeah, you can.
Yeah. Yeah. So as far as the diagnostic goes, that's very, very simple. No matter what, we have a standard diagnostic fee for anything. Don't care if it's a fluid leak, if it's a tire concern. For the most part, there's always a diagnostic fee. The general rule of thumb is if it's something insanely obvious, that you or I could look at in 5 seconds and determine what the issue is, we won't charge a diag. But other than that, everything else, there's a diagnostic fee. We start with the fee. We have a standardized script. Start with this fee, and then, we'll go from there and generally train the staff, mainly the advisors and the techs. Just the tech needs to provide a justification for, needing more time. If more time is needed, then you say, hey, I did X, Y, and Z, and, we need to remove the seat, check this, pinpoint test that, and then we request more time. And usually we upload that into a digital inspection just to give, present value, but we're not scared of asking for more than just our said diagnostic fee, but we're not giving our time away. Those days are long over.
That was kind of what I was looking for. You're all good. Jason, he's a little choppy, but that was the same way with that other guy on the other platform. Like I'm smooth. He's got like a little bit of his camera. How do I look to you? Clear?
Yeah, you're pretty clear for the most part.
Yeah, you're kind of degraded a little bit. Do you want to look at this, Jason? What do you think? Yeah, it is kind of is
Unless
what
you
it
have
is.
another camera, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's okay.
It might be where you're at or your internet, but my internet connection is good to you, so it's probably your camera. There you go. You just cleared it up. Whatever you did, you just cleared it up.
Yeah, I don't know.
Look at you. All right. So let me get this show started. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about your business and stuff like that. We usually do this about a half an hour.
Okay.
Sound good?
Yeah.
And it's Chris at Car Care of Henderson, Tennessee, right?
Yeah. Chris at Car Care Import and Domestic Service is how we go. That's generally how people know us.
All right. Sounds good. So today we have Chris from Car Care Domestic. And what is it? I'm going to start over.
Import and Domestic Service.
It's always a tongue twister trying to remember everybody's shop names. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Chris at Import and Domestic Service, Car Care, right?
Car Care Import and Domestic Service.
How about
Yep.
this? I'm going to let you say it because it's a tongue twister for me. So,
Yeah.
welcome, Chris. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm Chris at Car Care Import and Domestic Service here right outside of Nashville, Tennessee.
Awesome. Welcome to Repair Shop Reckoning. Today, this is going to be an interesting episode because Chris is an owner-operator of his shop. He does pretty much everything import and domestic, and I've talked to him. Actually, you do some EV stuff too, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Tesla toolbox and all that?
Oh, yeah. We're doing a Tesla Model 3 compressor. I just got done writing it up. A little bit of brain damage, but we make sure to read through all the procedure and do it by the book while we're still, new. We don't know all the nuances yet.
Yeah, that's going to be a definite interesting next few years working on EVs. So in your state, do you have to have state mechanic testing or anything like that to be certified?
No, but we do have a handful of certifications. Really, it's my young guys. My older guys are quite turned off. Most of them are with the EVs. So I worked really hard to get my younger guys excited, and they're, more than happy to go take the courses, get the certifications. So that's surprisingly, who I dispatch a lot of these Teslas to are, 20-year-old guys who have, actually passed all the tests, gotten their certifications. They're amped up about it. They like being able to do what, other people can't. The older guys are like, yeah, they can't stand them. They're not the biggest fan of them.
Well, I'll tell you a little secret. I just bought a Cybertruck here about a month and a half ago. I drove my friends for a week and I'm like, I was an EV hater. Could not stand it. I'm 54 years old. I'm like, nobody in their right mind would drive an electric golf cart. And I ended up getting one and actually really like it.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
I get it. I was in one right after I heard about yours and your experience. I went and drove one yesterday. Funny enough, an advisor we just hired just got one last Friday. and I got to go play around with it. The steering is incredible. It drives absolutely. It does not drive like, I think it's a 7,000-pound vehicle, right? I might be wrong there. It
No, you're
does
right.
not drive like a 7,000-pound vehicle. It's absolutely insane, the technology they managed to pack into those things.
Oh, it's crazy. I just drove mine 1,600 miles. Me and Jason here, we went all the way to West Memphis, Arkansas to his shop. We're there 2 days and drove back. And I was like freaking out about battery anxiety. But I will tell you, the
Yeah,
software is so good in there. They direct you right to the charging stations. And mine came with free lifetime supercharging. So it's
yeah,
free.
yeah.
Well, that was pretty sweet. But anyway, so I wanted to get into a couple topics that people seem to struggle with in our industry. Number one is flat rate and how you pay your guys. You know, the number one thing I keep hearing over and over again is all over the chat boards and on TikTok and everything. These guys are like, I'm an older tech and I get stuck with all the diagnostic work and intermittent problems, and all the young guys are doing all the gravy and the brakes and stuff like that. I can't make any money? Well, that's not necessarily true if you have an owner operator or service advisor that knows how to write stuff up and charge for diag. And I think this is the other part of it. And there's an argument out there too. And I want to hear your perspective on it. A lot of these older techs are like, why the hell do I have to write up a whole book to help the service advisor do his job? Well, here's the other part of the puzzle here. Most service advisors are not technicians, right? So they rely on the technician to write up a good story so they can convey it to the customer with minimum questions for the customer and sell the job, right? And that's where I see a lot of older techs getting all bent out of shape that they have to write all this up for the service advisor. So let's hear what you have to say about that, Chris.
Yeah, there's a few things going there. One, as far as dispatching go, that's a whole art form. So you gotta, even with your older, more experienced guys, I'm a believer in you gotta toss in some gravy, even it out a little bit. But as far as the diag goes, that tells me that your people up front just aren't selling the diag time. They're not building enough value in it, and that's where the text notes. Very good digital inspections. Not all shops do that, but in my opinion, you need really good digital inspections to really sell, 4, 5, 6 hours of diag. So it really comes down to it's a symphony between everything you just said. You got to have good dispatching. That's a whole art form. You got to have technicians that can write the stories. You got to have advisors that can build value and what's been done and what needs to be done. Explain to the customer, hey, we got to remove the seat, pinpoint test X, Y, and Z. It's a lot of time, labor. We got to go, look up all these wiring. You have to build value in the whole story. I very rarely get any diagnostics declined, especially if you explain to the person what you're doing in layman's terms, which it's not just the advisor that has to help with that. It's a technician as well. So that's a complex question. That's why it gives so much trouble, is because it's not a simple answer. It's, you got to have your techs on board. You got to have your advisors on board to be able to not be in that situation that you're describing.
No, I would agree with that. And a lot of it's a training issue, which comes from the top. A lot of these shop owners don't train their people correctly and you do the micro corrections to get the stuff flowing the way that it needs to go, and teach them the word tracks to use, your service advisors, your technicians. One thing I did at my shop, I built a GPT and I built it so it checks spelling, it rewords stuff correctly and stuff like that. So my technicians are at their toolbox. They write up their story. They plug it into my GPT, which is AI learning. It's part of Chat GPT. We programmed it for our shop. So it rewrites in layman's terms and explains it very well, properly punctuated, spelling, because that's a big problem in our business. How can we charge a lot of money and it's all misspelled? So
Yeah.
we did all that, and that has really helped my service advisors explain to the customers and build value in it, like you said. So go on.
Yeah, we do something similar with Gronk. We were using ChatGPT. I love that you figured out a way to build your own. That's absolutely incredible. I've been trying to do that. I can't manage it. It's above my pay grade. But the next best thing is we just use, pick any AI of your choice. You train your guys on what prompts to use. AI is just a matter of learning prompts, whether you're using it as a diagnostic aid or, helping, word certain findings. And so I taught them a lot of prompts to use, and all of a sudden we have a lot better stories. And yeah, how can you charge $800, $1,000 for diagnostics? Hey, customer, I need, 5, 10 hours of labor to go through, take this car apart, and you have stuff misspelled. You have, it's not concise as to what you're actually doing. You look like a schmuck. You look like an idiot. The customer has every right to say no. So you're probably like me. You're very anal about the write-up, professionalism, how it looks. But it does matter. It truly does matter. But I think the future is, like you said, I think you're probably a few years ahead of the game with what you're doing. I think that's going to be industry norm in a few years here. It's going to be integrated into our softwares. But yeah, that's you're doing everything right. That's the only way you can successfully sell and build a lot of value and more diagnostic time and just helping sell jobs in general, in my opinion.
No, you're 100% right. And one thing that my wife kind of got on me about, she's like, do you realize since you launched your GPT that our paper and ink has increased almost by double? And I said, that's okay. I said, when you give somebody a $9,000 or a $10,000 bill and the bill looks like a phone book and each thing is written out with pictures and everything like that is very professional. I said, they look at it and say, wow, he did a lot of work for what he charged me versus R&R Spark Plug and Spark Plug spelled wrong.
Yeah,
$100, right? So you're
yeah,
100% right. They have every right to be irritated. And it's kind of like you go to the dealer and they give you the repair order after you're done or your invoice. You can't even read it. And that's by design, right? They have a
hmm
bunch of codes on there and you don't even worry about it. You never even asked. Well, I like to be transparent. And I hate to use that word, so I'm like really careful, but I give them exactly what we did, pictures and everything, pictures when it shows up, inspections, just like you probably do too, because
yeah.
we've all got caught in hey, the car showed up and we didn't see if it had a check engine light. So we take pictures of dashboards with a timestamp with the car running when it shows up so we know what lights are on. We always can refer back.
Yeah. Yeah. I do the same thing. I don't know if you do this. I found that method's great, but we were getting blamed from things that literally our techs started doing that, where we'd have the technician do that in his DVI, digital vehicle inspection, but we're getting blamed for things that happened out in the parking lot before the vehicle even got brought into the shop. So we actually have the advisors go out, take a picture of VIN plate, tire size, which helps price out tires, any kind of body damage, any kind of windshield damage. I'm having them eye down the tires, having the advisor eye down if it needs an oil service or if it's a Mercedes or something, service B's do. I'm having them go ahead and eye down the vehicle and tell them to turn the AC on, feel the AC. I have the advisors in on that process to make notes to just even bring everything even more full circle. So you have the outside pictures inside the shop. We do the four corners, same exact thing. We do a double work, but we have to, and it's already saved us a few $1,000s of things, those weird gray area scenarios where you can't prove you didn't do it. Around here, we try to keep our reputations number one. So if I can't prove I didn't do it, a lot of times I take care of it for the customer. Now we have a bulletproof system to where that's never an issue.
So you sound like a young me. Anytime I ever got burned, I built a system around that problem I had to stave off the next one. So I do it. What shop management program do you use?
Metric.
Okay, I use Shopware, which they're similar. You could build your own inspections on Shopware. So we do
Okay.
have a check engine inspection, and I own a body shop also. So my guys also take all the pictures and they look for body damage, and they jump into the other system and get estimates from them on body damage.
Mm,
Hey, while your car's here, would you like us to, or your truck? We work on
yeah.
trucks a lot. Would you like us to take care of the body work too? So we're right now, so we're like this. I mean, we pretty much do the same thing, which is kind of cool to come across an operator that's actually doing pretty much the same stuff we are. Because I've been in this business for 35 years and it's taken me this long to keep building on and building on to keep, you know what I mean, to protect yourself, like cameras. I'm sure your shop and your parking lot and everything has cameras for the very reason somebody that you don't even know pulls in, hits the car and pulls out. It's not your fault.
Yeah. Yeah. 30 grand earlier this year for cameras all around the whole premise. We're connected to a used car dealership and bought a Jiffy Lube, the landed Jiffy Lube next door to us sits on. And we have like a little mini body shop, a mini photo. It's basically a car reconditioning center and a spare parking lot. So we have a lot of land all in one. And we had 3 Hellcats get stolen, didn't have good video. So that was strike number one. update the cameras. A few months went by, we pushed it off. Second thing that happened was a little incident, body incident, whatever. Tell them, hey, let's get better cameras. And then a few months go by, we sort of forget, push it off. Final straw was a $50,000 tire scam. So, yeah, that was absolutely brutal. Got charged back for everything. And yeah, very long story. But yeah, that was the final straw. And we're like, yep, we're upgrading everything, and nobody's gonna ever, there's not a single blind spot, nothing. So yeah, I had to learn my lesson from not learning soon enough in acting. That was a big life lesson. But yeah, it's you just gotta it's gotta eat it sometimes and pivot and adjust.
It's tough, but you know what? Like I preach all the time on my TikTok videos and Instagram, or I'll just say my videos, that you have to know your numbers. You have to be profitable enough. So if something happens, like you just said, you have the wherewithal to withstand making it through the problem, right? You could pay your way out of the problem, or a warranty, or if you don't want to turn in your insurance. A lot of guys do not run their shops profitably. So I would say they're always one disaster away from being out of business.
Yep.
And tell me why you think that's so important to run your business, profitably, and knowing your numbers as a shop owner.
Yeah, well, for the reason I just said, and that's what I explained to all of our staff when we had meetings about all this. A lot of that stuff, there's a lot more to it. The big thing that motivated us to like really, be on point was really the whole tire situation that happened. But yeah, I had a meeting with everyone. I was like, guys, like most shops, this would put them out of business instantly. And I explained that exact thing. This is why we're profitable. This is why our labor rate is X. This is why we're not the cheapest in town. And I also explained to them, as far as training goes, investing in the future goes, it all plays a part. And that's why I truly 110%, you got to have management, and you got to have an owner that sort of believes in the vision. You have to believe in what you're charging. You get burned a few times. A lot of people just get burned, keep on rolling, continue the grind in the rat race. But if you're smart, you learn your lesson, you really dig into the numbers, understand the numbers. You have to account for a lot of that stuff in each hour that you're billing, and your parts, matrix. It don't fall for the dealer's charging, 10%, you have 10% margin on what the dealer's charging in list. Hey, you can only charge a list because, the dealer's only charging list. You can't be more expensive than the dealer. That argument just makes me want to, shove my face into a wall. It hurts my head, because you cannot operate a business on 10, 15% margin. If you do want to operate your business like that, first bad thing that's going to happen is going to, kick you out. You're not going to be able to pay your bills.
I agree with you 100%. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people that don't agree with us, and they make our life harder, with the people. But then again, you end up with the wrong kind of customers anyway when you're the cheapest guy, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's sort of like you know your place in the market, as I do. I'm the most expensive guy in town, but I will stand behind it. I will give you a warranty. If we mess something up, we'll fix it. All the whole 9 yards. A lot of guys can't even afford a warranty job. And how did you get your guys all on the same page? Interesting topic, because a lot of guys don't have all their people on the same page, and your service advisors believe in what they're selling, so it's easier for them to sell, right? When you believe in what you're doing, it's easier to sell.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So I basically I give a lot of credit to our business consulting guy who's helped us a lot throughout the years, but he basically fed me, made me believe. I quit selling with my own pocket, and then I took that information and spread it amongst advisors. Also with the techs, a lot of these techs sell themselves short. They're like, yeah, it's extra 0.5 for that. I'm like, extra point, I know you can do it in 0.5, but you've already done this 100 times. It's like, no, that's an hour right there. So I've explained the value to all of them all around the board, and explain like, hey, this is why we stay a few minutes later. We don't have a team that bolts out at 6. This is why you guys get paid more than average. I really sell them on the vision upon hiring, upon, my employment agreement, whenever that we make people sign. I really cake it in from the second they're hired. and have to remind them constantly, like, hey, we're not an average shop. We go above and beyond. These other shops, yeah, you can get your brake fluid flush done down the street for $100, but we're not that shop. We're not. They check out at 6. If we have an issue, we're gonna stay until 6:37, figure it out. And I take all these micro examples and just tie it in every once in a while, and sort of build it up to, it really is like a little hype speech. I don't have everything figured out. I'm 26 years old. Obviously there's challenges being young, and, there's plenty, so a few 60-year-old guys, 50-year-old guys, 40-year-old guys. I can't sit there and lecture them about certain things, but what I can do is ask questions that provoke thought and, lead them to the same thought process that I'm having. Why wouldn't we do that? And I get them along, align their chain of thought with mine. So that's sort of how I've done it. I don't have like, corny meetings or anything. It's more of like any opportunity I get to build value in what we do and explain the value in what we do. Even if it's a daily conversation, just walking by their box, I'll do it. So to answer your question, I think it just comes from management up top and making everyone in the whole building believe in what they're doing.
Absolutely. Here's another question for you. What is your take on these guys, technicians saying, they can do a service advisor's job, but a service advisor can't do their job? This is always a good one. I always like to hear
Yeah.
everybody's perspective on it. I know you're smiling,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. It's funny because I asked my guys this the other day, and I love hearing their responses. My guys, they don't have filters. You know how it is with these guys. Like, yeah, I asked them that exact question. But as far as me, other than, enjoying and their thoughts on it, I sort of agree to some extent. Like, yes, technicians, we can't do as advisors or people up front per se. We can't do what they do, but on the reverse side of it, a very high functioning, highly efficient, top level shop, there's 0% chance that they can do what we do up top as far as just the brain damage, the mental restraint, holding yourself back with customers. There's a lot of mental discipline, a lot of complexity dealing with, we deal with a lot of warranty companies. We have fleet customers. There's a lot of relationships, politics. Oh, this lady's a little crazy, so, you got to handle her a little bit different. There's a lot of that, like, tiptoeing around you have to do that at least a lot of my techs, can't speak for all of them. They tend to have a few antisocial traits in some ways, and, if, like, you don't like it, then, go get bent kind of thing. There's a whole art form to, like, being a very high level advisor in a shop like ours. Now, if you're just comparing a shop, just a normal Jiffy Lube down the road, that kind of advising job, like, sure, any tech can do that. But once you get more into the high-end, high-level shops, it's very complex. I know it's complex as I've spent, dozens of hours trying to teach it, and it is very, very difficult. The devil's always in the detail with what we do.
I agree. And then now it's CYA nonstop too in the world we
Yeah.
live in. So how did you start in this business? Were you a tech and decided to open a shop? Talk to me about that. Tell me your short story here.
No, no. So actually my story is quite unique. So in the sense that came in and it's actually family business. My father started a dealership in 98, and the dealership was doing fine. Everything was great. The guy reconditioning his cars kept screwing him over, kept overcharging him, this, that, and the other. He said, hey, you screw me over one more time, I'm opening up my own shop, never giving you $1 again. Sure enough, screwed him over one more time. And funny enough, it was sort of like out of spite, like, hey, I'm just going to open up my own shop. That's just the kind of guy my dad is. And he ended up actually just opening up, pretty massive shop. Back in the day when we opened, we'd even have racks installed. It was literally just flat bays and one good tech he'd found, and built it up, over the next, since 2014 on. Had no idea what he was doing, had no consulting, just always was a believer in cleanliness, having the best technology, holding everyone to a really high standard. He just has all those really good business entrepreneurial values, and eventually built it up. So I sort of came in, I studied finance and marketing at a University of Tennessee. I had no interest in doing any of this kind of work. for the longest time, my dad calls me up, says, "Hey, I need you to do this. There's some family issues, some health issues. I need you to step in and, and help run this show." So came in as an advisor, didn't know the difference between a shocker or strut. I'd go home, study Quizlets every night, watch YouTube videos all weekend just to figure out what car parts were. Definitely put in like my 10,000 hours and like probably less than 3 years. It's working very, very long hours trying to figure it all out because I hated not knowing. I hated not feeling like I was good at my job. And I just shut up too. I never acted, I'm very self-aware, never acted like I was, this daddy's business. I'm going to do what I want. I was the first one in, last one out. And the text eventually just grew like, hey, this guy's here. He's, he does a lot. He's staying till 12 o'clock, organizing things, coming up with systems to make us more money. And eventually I just worked my way through the ranks until we had an issue with a service manager, and everyone just looked around and was like, "Hey, why don't you do it?" So spent the past few months, really since the beginning of the year, just doing that. And ever since then, everything's actually been on the up and up, and we're still hitting record numbers and everything's going great. I have a very unique, I guess, management style in the way I do things because of my age. But that's part of it. I can't boss people around. I just ask questions. I use everyone's head. I let everyone have a say in what we do and what direction the business is going in. If they don't like something and justify why it doesn't make sense, we scrap it. If they want to do something and it makes sense, we do it. So that's sort of been the magic to our formula there, and that's sort of the whole story of how we've been in, how this place has grown so much. Because back when I started, we were doing about 1.7, 1.8 million, and we're pacing to double that, this year already, maybe even more. So we're definitely on the up and up. We're going to keep growing. I'm very excited about the future. I'm still young, haven't gone burned out. I hate the negativity in our industry and our business. Going to get burned out. It's going to whoop your ass. I just choose not to believe in that. I don't believe in that narrative.
I would agree with that. And, I always refer to what people are saying on all these social media platforms. And there's guys that are in these groups that are like, I don't even want to go to my shop tomorrow morning. I hate it. Sundays, I hate Sunday nights. I dread it. I have anxiety. It makes me sad. I can't sleep because I hate my business. I'm like, man, you're doing something seriously wrong because I'm excited. I love going. I've been doing this for 35 years, and don't get me wrong, you know as well as I do, it's not all rainbows and unicorns. Some days are rough, right? But I like what we do. I like what I do. So when
Yeah.
I'm sure you sound like you love it too, and you're 26, so you're a sharp operator. I could tell you that way already. You're going to be going a long way, which is kind of cool to see a younger guy that's as sharp as you coming into this business already, because there's just not a lot, and you kind of fit the mold. Though a lot of the people that are coming in are going to be the second or third generation of a shop. They kind of grew up around it. My 18-year-old son graduated from high school, and he started working at the shop now. He wants to be a service advisor, and he wants to own a shop someday. So I said, well, you might as well get started. I said, just so you know. And he's like, I already know. So he's kind
Yeah.
of same as you, But he
Yeah.
grew up around them guys as a little baby, I'm sure you did too, right?
Yeah, yeah, more around the dealership because, like I said, this place wasn't even built till about, a decade ago. So it was more around the dealership. I never had any. I was always wondering why my dad was so stressed out all the time, why he worked so long. Vacations to me growing up was more him there for a day or two and then having to fly home, manage the business kind of thing. He's always been the heart of the business, the sole operator, wildly talented, the best salesman you've ever met in your life. He does business right. I mean, just as well as me, even franchise dealers rarely make it 5, 10 years until they sell off and consolidate. So having a dealership since 98, which, by the way, he started that dealership. I'm a twin. He took out a loan, everything he had, bought the land, got the dealership, and found out a few months later they didn't have just one, but 2 kids on the way. I know that was had to been some hefty motivation there, but that's sort of how it all started. And my whole goal is, and what he wants for me, and why he's such a big believer in consulting and everything, and he don't want me to be the whole business to depend on me. If I'm not here, everything falls apart. And he don't want me everything having to do with me. And I'm working very hard to not run in that trap and have to work my whole life to, bell to bell 6 days a week. Eventually, I'd like to have my systems working for me. I'd like to, give my best operators, my key people, pieces of the pie, have them treat the business as if it's their own, and grow and expand and scale kind of thing. So that's sort of what we've spoken about. That's what he wants for me. That's what I want for me. That's my goal. A lot easier said than done. Very, very difficult, but that's going to be my long goal. 5, 10 years. That's really what I'm after.
That's pretty cool. And I will tell you, it took me a long, long time to get my processes to the point where nailed down where I'm not a part of the day to day operations of the shop. I can leave. And you'll know your systems are in place and your processes are tight enough when you get involved in a process and screw your shop up. So
Yeah.
when I walk in and butt my head in, I usually short circuit everything. I've literally learned now. I usually put my head down and try not to get involved because as a shop owner, you'll hear a torch light up. You're like, what are they doing? You want to run out there and see. I stay out of, I don't get involved with the service advisors anymore. They dispatch the work, but it's taken me it's been 35 years. It's taken me a good 25 years. And I started with a consultant back. I used him for 3 years as management success. And they're gone now. Or if they're there, the guy that started, he died. But they actually turned us around, and I still follow their principles. I've changed some of them, but you're right. Having the right consulting and knowing how to do it and build processes and stand by them, you know what I mean? Because sometimes you have to, obviously, like you said, change them on the fly. If somebody comes up and you go,
Mhm.
hey, this is not working and this is why, you're like, yeah, that makes sense. You cannot be arrogant and say, oh, I don't care. I'm the boss. This is the way we're doing it. That's not how you lead. If
Yeah.
you talk to your people like that, you're taking a walk, right? You're not a leader.
Yeah.
Would you? So processes are 100% necessary in a shop. And a lot of times, like I said, the shop owners short circuit it. And like the term you use, selling out of your own pocket. You know as well as I do in the last 3 years how expensive stuff has gotten.
Oh
So
yeah.
I look at some of our estimates, I'm like, holy crap. But the service advisors have no problem selling them.
Yeah.
So.
It still blows my mind, every day it blows my mind. It just something no one talks about is vehicles are probably the silent wealth killer. I say probably, they are the silent wealth killer of Americans, especially the people that are buying the wrong ones. We're a Euro shop, so you get people rolling in the not hating, love them, but the clapped out '05 BMW that just has 8 grand of oil leaks alone. We're not even getting into the check engine light that's on, the ABS light. It's crazy how expensive these cars are, and used parts prices are absolutely insane now. Even from when I first started a few years back, stuff's doubled. GM transmissions have gone up 2, 3. I know you probably do those all the time. Everyone listening's probably done a bunch of them, but those have gone up. List cost has gone up 200-300 bucks. There's electronic magnetic struts, MagneRide struts on the GMs have like doubled in price. Like everything's gone up from, the used parts, the OEM parts. And then there's those people in the middle that are like, hey, everyone else is going up. I'm going to go up too, So just like everything has gone to the roof, and we're a pass through business. So only thing, we can't absorb it. We have to pass it through to the customer. If we absorb it, there's going to be no good shops left. If you have that good of a heart and like, hey, I'm going to take care of this extra cost for the customer. Well, they're going to be stuck with, ding dong down the road who don't know what they're doing, who's doing a hatch job, on people's vehicles. So
Yeah. Yeah, this will be my last topic on closing, but you're 100% right. We've had over the years, not recently, where you're too expensive. We're going to go ahead and take it out of there and take it to the guy down the road. I said, okay. And the guy down the road. We all know who's in our town and in our
yeah,
business. And you're thinking to myself, oh, like a big one for us used to be 5.4 and V10 Triton manifolds, the studs breaking
hmm
off in the head. We were great at drilling them, and getting them out and putting new studs in there. But we were too expensive because we
yeah,
can pretty much guarantee we weren't going to ruin your head because we did so many of them. Well, every once in a while, you get a guy like, well, I'm going to take it across the street to the muffler shop. They could do it for half the price. A week later, he'd be coming back with needing heads,
yeah,
and we've seen that over and over again, to what you said, it's like you pay
yeah.
for what you get.
Yep, that you do.
Well, thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it. I wish you luck. I mean, you're probably one of the sharpest guys I've talked to at your age, so you should be pretty proud of that.
Yeah, yeah, I appreciate it. And the stuff you said too, it's funny, is like this when you're talking about 25 years it took you to learn XYZ, you step in and you jack things up so you just stay out. It's funny, you remind me so much of my dad because he said we had that exact conversation a week ago, like word for word. I just wanted to, I didn't want to interrupt you, but I was like, that's insane. But yeah, yeah, I love that. That's why I absolutely love the show. I wish you the best. I would try to watch every episode, and I can't wait to see you grow. I know it's going to take off.
Yeah, I'm not everybody's cup of tea because, I probably, your dad's been in this business long enough, so he's probably a little bit jaded like I am. Like, I just say how it is, okay? And a lot of guys nowadays, they want to go talk to their therapy kitten. I'm not that guy.
Yeah,
I,
I get that. I
I
get
have
that
a
vibe.
hunch that you probably weren't raised that way either.
Yeah,
It's,
yeah.
Chris, take care. Thanks for being on Repair Shop Reckoning, the race to zero.
Yes, sir. Have a good
All
one.
right, man. Take care. Bye-bye.